Wow. Not gonna lie, never thought I'd be saying this, but the day has officially come. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Lou. I'm joined by co-host Alex Wong. You're listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. The Toronto Raptors have some breaking news this morning. Literally woke me up with this news because, one day you go to sleep watching highlights of Elijah Martin. The next morning you wake up to the news that the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment Group, led obviously by the Rogers takeover of the organization in the last month, officially have parted ways with Raptors president and vice chairman Masai Ujiri. It is sent the whole city scrambling. We are literally scrambling for the last 20 minutes. I've just been texting everybody to see what potentially could happen next for the Raptors, because this is some pretty disorienting news. I know that this was rumored as soon as Rogers took full control over MLSE and pushed out Bell into a minority position and took over for Larry Tannenbaum, who also is, remains in a minority position. But this is still shocking, nevertheless. Alex Wong, how's the news sitting with you, man? You're literally supposed to go on a flight in a couple of hours. I don't know. You're going to reschedule that flight because the Raptors, MLSE president Keith Pelly has just announced that he's going to be taking a press conference live at 1 p.m. So I will be there as well. But how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'll be streaming that from Porter Airport, and I'm looking forward to hearing a second pod from you later this afternoon, because Masai leaving the Toronto Raptors is emergency pod. This is like next level. This is, we joke all the time about like what
this
would
is
get
DEFCON
us.
5, man.
Yeah, this is like what would get us out of bed to chat about this, and the timing of it we can talk about. Just immediately right after the draft, right before free agency. But I think the main thing you hit on is that if you were like reading the tea leaves, not that there were a lot that was like being dropped out there with the ownership change. Like you did hear whispers, like if you just talk to people, right? Like I'm sure you talk to people too, and it's like, who knows if this is the end of Masai? Like Larry Tannenbaum was his biggest supporter. I think there was some reporting around his contract negotiations last time around Ed Rogers being the one on the board that, maybe was a little bit hesitant about, throwing that amount of money at Masai, even though he won a championship. And with the ownership change, I think I'm not fully surprised. I'm more surprised by the timing than the actual news.
Yeah. I mean, again, like today should have been about the Raptors adding two new draft prospects in Colin Murray-Boyles with the 9th pick and Elijah Martin with the 39th pick. Now the focus is not on those guys. I mean, those players are coming in today to be announced. I feel like they should probably push that one day. They should be like, hey, guys.
They're going to be like, hey,
congratulations, but wait.
Can you say we the North? And also, what's your favorite Masai Ujiri memory?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, we'll get to our favorite Masai Ujiri moment, because regardless of sort of how you feel that the job has been done, and quite frankly, I don't really think that you can say that the job has been done poorly over the course of his span. Maybe in the last couple of years, the Raptors have definitely had a slowdown. But regardless of sort of what your feelings are about him as a decision maker, I think he is kind of universally beloved in Toronto, and he is, at least in my time in Toronto, one of the most rare characters in terms of he became bigger than almost the sport and the team itself in terms of what he represented. Like I'm talking about Masai like he's Batman or something, but like he had in terms of any other executive in my lifetime of following Toronto sports, he had more cachet, more aura, more respect, and quite frankly, more success.
This would make Bobby Webster Alfred, so you might want to chill on that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Bobby Webster, what do you think happens next for the Toronto Raptors? We did get the official release from MLSE and the Raptors organization. They say here, as the search for a new team president commences, Raptors front office leadership remains in place with extensions for key personnel, including general manager Bobby Webster. Per team policies, terms of the deal will not be released. This is actually in the official Raptors PR release email that was sent out shortly after the news, confirming that Masai Ujiri has been parted ways by MLSE, which I suppose means MLSE has fired Masai. And also that Bobby Webster will be staying on long term. Of course, I did shoot our good friend Bob a text because, once in a while he will respond, and he didn't say much. He really just said that, thanks for the concern, I'm good. So yes, that does confirm that Bobby Webster will be here long term. I do have some questions though in terms of are they actually going to be finding a new team president who takes on the role that Masai was vacating while Bobby continues to take over as GM. And hopefully Dan Tolzman and the rest of the staff are there too, because Dan has done a great job as the assistant GM managing the draft over the years. And I do feel some level of confidence that we did see Dan twice in the span of 3 days in this draft process, on Monday before the draft and then on Wednesday after the Raptors commenced the second round of the draft. But what's your reaction to the news that at least, okay, Masai's out, but it seems like Bobby's here a little bit longer term?
Yeah, I think hearing from people that I talked to as well, like I think the plan if Masai was going to leave was that he wanted to make sure that the front office that was here was going to stay intact. And that meant like a succession plan with Bobby in place who was already here. And my biggest question is like, number one, a new president coming in, what kind of role are they going to play, right? Like is it going to be a hands-on role? Because a president of operations of a basketball team in the NBA can play a lot of different roles, right? Like they could be more business driven versus being more involved in like the personnel decisions. And the bigger question for me is we've always had this running joke of like, oh, when trades happen, when the team goes in a certain direction, like, oh, is this Masai? Is this Bobby? Is this Masai and Bobby? Assuming that Bobby is, taking over the reins here now, like, what is Bobby's vision for the team, right? Like Masai made a huge bet on Scotty. He was Scotty's number one supporter. Masai pivoted, Masai and the front office like pivoted towards trying this win now strategy now, starting with the trade for Brandon Ingram. Like I wonder if any of that kind of shifts in any way, or like how does the front office without Masai value the players that are currently on the roster, like RJ Barrett, like Emmanuel quickly, and you go down the line. So, and these are all like valid questions because this is happening right as we're heading into free agency.
Yeah, the timing of this is nuts. Like we literally have the players flying in. So you have the players, their agencies coming in. I do wonder how much of this process was already started behind the scenes, because it is a confusing look, especially when you have the players coming in for the draft, and after the draft you always have. After the draft, you always have Masai giving the call to the players and saying welcome to Toronto, stuff like that. I know this is just like trivial, but he's in those videos. He's in those calls. I mean, we didn't get one for Elijah Martin, but we saw that video for Colin Murray Boyles. The first one to call him is Masai, just as usual. So how much of this is planned? And that was one of the questions, I've been trying to answer this morning. And I know that, even with dealing with some of the draft prospects and the potential players that would hit Toronto, some of the agents largely said that they dealt with Bobby and not Masai, and that there wasn't really much word from Masai at all in that process, which is strange. And I know that Masai obviously does let the GM take control of so many decisions, and obviously Dan Tolzman does a great job of managing the draft just in general. But there are signs, even just from sort of the dealings with the newest members of the team, that you saw that Masai was already sort of like fading from the picture. And so I guess now that's official. It is a confusing sort of situation. I think more than anything else, the Raptors need to, I guess even Rodgers and MLSE have to really signal some level of confidence and some level of stability here in this organization, because it is a key period, right? You just went through the draft. You have free agency coming up in about a week. You have summer league coming up after that. Everyone's going to be asking this exact question of what's going on here. And, you just don't want to make Toronto look like a mess. But at the same time, I don't know how you can see this other than messy, man. I mean, I feel like, especially if we know that Rodgers is going to take over, and I guess Rodgers only officially got full control on the sales, everything was pending about a month ago. Why wasn't this decision made a month ago, an announcement made a month ago, so that the clarity around the organization and the future of the organization isn't, in doubt, isn't about like, hey, what's going to happen to this team? Because quite frankly, this should not be the period of instability. This is a period of actually building the roster going forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think all of that is like I think what everybody is concerned about right now, and it's Masai led the organization just through a really long era of stability. Like you can say what you want about how the team has been built post championship, and we've been critical of that too, but you think about the overall body of work and you think about the different eras that this Raptors team went through. like obviously, it goes without saying the most successful era with the championship, but there was just a stability there, right? And you're right. Like now, everything does seem to be thrown into question. And yeah, I guess the nightmare scenario is like imagine if Masai is announced as like the Hawks GM tomorrow, and then they trade for Giannis on Sunday. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think this is the end of Masai in basketball. I'll say that much. I do think that Masai has still an incredible amount of cachet around the league. He is widely respected around the NBA. He has incredible connections. I don't think that this is the end of him in basketball. I know there's always this thought that Masai, because his interests were greater than just simply running an NBA team, that he obviously does an incredible job with philanthropy and everything that he does with his organization of Giants of Africa, that there was always this thought that Masai would just walk to do something else. I don't think that time has come yet for Masai. I feel like that's always there. He can do two jobs. And when the NBA is no longer an option, then he can fully focus on everything else. But we'll get to the future of Masai as well, because I do want to think about what the Raptors are going to do long term. There is the news from ESPN. Obviously Shams broke this news, but ESPN put up a story about this, and in that story, it does have the note to say that the Raptors are expected to conduct a full search for the next president of basketball operations. You know, I do wonder what that means. Because if you're going to extend Bobby Webster, does that mean that he stays on as GM, but he accepts that someone else is going to be the boss on top of him? Because the president role is on top of the GM role. Usually in the NBA nowadays, you're going to have, like, these are just two positions, right? They're just not one position. I wonder sort of who this other person's going to be. And I also wonder, as much as the reporting does say that they're going to do a full search, it seems to me that they have a target and a candidate in mind already. And I don't feel like you just fire Masai and then you just wait to see sort of who's out there. I think that person has already been identified. I don't actually personally know who that person is just yet, but I'm pretty confident that this was a move made in mind where this person is already sort of, whoever is going to succeed Masai has already been identified.
Yeah, and I think it would be an awkward situation for Bobby in the front office to have been here and worked with Masai, and for a new president to come in. And generally, when a new president comes in, like he'll want to pick his own guys. I think about maybe like the Masai Tim Lawicki partnership that was here too. I still think, the healthiest way to go is like a president of basketball operations comes in and maybe it's just more business minded and can be hands off and just let Bobby and the rest of the front office run his team. I think that'd be the preference, because if you're bringing in a new president and now he's collaborating with this existing front office, I feel like, they're probably not going to agree on the vision. Like, there's going to be, different perspectives and things like that. And it could get messier for the Raptors.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, my head's still spinning, man.
Yeah, I need more reporting, man. Where's Grange at? Where's Jay
Okay.
Lou at, man?
So this is I mean, this is at least this is what I got so far, is that
Yeah.
even agents dealing with the Raptors in the draft process largely dealt with Bobby instead of Masai, and that they did find it a little bit odd because Masai obviously was the top man. So that was a hint right there. I think that, I do think that Rogers has someone in mind for who is taking over. And that obviously there is going to be a quote unquote full search, but I think that there is something there. And of course, I guess we have confirmed that Bobby is going to remain GM with the contract extension. So you assume that he's safe, at least for the time being. But again, a real series of speculation, man, because this is just a lot, man. I do wonder. Look, we'll find out more news in the time to come. We will find out more news with the time to come, because we will see all the details. Was there a disagreement? Was there an escalation of a disagreement between Masai and Rogers? Was there? Is this basically? I mean, right now it's being framed as MLSE is letting go of Masai, which means that Masai is getting fired. But I wonder too if Masai has some other place in mind to go, and therefore, he is just walking to do that. I mean, largely you would report that as mutual parting of ways, rather than saying, being let go of. But at the same time, you never know. I do think Masai, again, I think he's going to continue in basketball. I think he's going to continue in the NBA. And then I think my final question is just like, at least in regards to sort of what specifically happened here, it's just like, are the Raptors going to keep the same direction and the same course?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question going forward. And I think we're going to find out because we've heard so many Raptors players involved in trade rumors. We heard them being aggressive leading up to the draft, and we're expecting there's going to be a lot of movement here coming up with free agency and with trades that are going to happen. And I think Grange did report that those contract extensions for Bobby in the front office was already in place before the draft combine, like leading up to the announcement. So there was
Okay.
a bit of a lead up to this. So it's not like it's taking internally the front office by surprise. So you
Yeah.
would assume it's business as usual with conversations that they've been having, the direction that they're going. So I would assume in the short term, it's not like the Raptors can suddenly pivot. I mean, also it's right after the draft, so like
Yeah.
they've already done that bit of business. So we'll see how active they are in the trade market. But I would assume in the short term, this is kind of the team that they're going to go with, and I don't think there's going to be huge changes in the shift in the direction. I don't think they can really move much.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then I suppose that realistically, not that much has changed. I know this feels like a seismic, monumental change, but if they do keep the direction of the team going under the same general manager, then I think that largely speaking, this is just kind of almost odd. I mean, again, if you're going to plan all this and if you have all the contracts in place ahead of time, why not just let this thing happen a month ago? Remember, Mark Stein reported a month ago that Masai could potentially, like, the Atlanta Hawks were interested in Masai and that, whatever. And then, that kind of news just kind of faded away after a little bit. If you know that this is uncertain, why not just do it then? Why are we talking about this now, a day after the draft? I just don't think it's good announcement and good timing. And you're shocking everybody. And now the whole talk of the whole city in terms of sports is going to be, why did the Raptors let go of Masai? We're litigating this rather than focusing on the Raptors organization and the future of the team right now, because that's what the draft is supposed to do for you. That's what free agency is supposed to do for you.
Yeah, I'm thinking too. I think this was a couple press conferences ago, and I know in recent press conferences, Masai's been asked about his future here and there. And one comment did stick out to me when he basically just said, like, I don't think he put anything immediate, like definitive about his future here. And he just said, don't worry, like, no matter what, we're going to be good. And I guess, like, kind of looking back, I take that as like him knowing that if there was, if this move was going to happen, he was going to at least try his best to make sure
Well,
that the rest of the front office was going to still be in place.
Well, the funny thing too is, I mean, not funny. It actually makes me sick, and kind of in retrospect. But I remember just at the season end press conference, which was the last time Masai spoke publicly to Raptors fans, was at the end of the season. And I remember in the middle of that conversation, Doug Smith did ask Masai out of nowhere, "Hey, are you working on extensions for your staff?" And he said yes, we're working with them on that right now. We hope to get everyone extended and fully locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always, and I thought that was just kind of a throwaway comment. That was just kind of like
Sure.
a thing. But at the same time, I do think about it now in retrospect, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, was Masai like planning the succession plan in place?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I feel
And
like
which
this
is
is definitely not something that came out of nowhere.
right.
Right? I feel
In
like
which
there's been a
case,
lot
if
of
that's
thought.
mutual, if it's a mutual parting, why doesn't it get reported as a mutual parting? I think the part that is really confusing is the news that it comes out that MLSE is parted ways with Masai. That means the Raptors have fired Masai
Yeah. Well, two things for me.
rather
Like,
than
for
people
this to make
are going to split the whole time.
Yeah, we're literally doing this, like an hour after the news dropped, and like you said, a lot more is going to come out, but it would only make sense for two things. Like, number one, there was just some kind of internal disagreement that forced the timing of this, and number two is if, like you mentioned, there is something lined up
Yeah.
for Masai to go somewhere. Like, I think if one of those pieces are true, then all of this would make sense to me. Because if it is a mutual parting, like you said, and they are working together towards a timing, like this is not the time to announce that your president of operations is leaving.
Right.
So
Because again, you literally have new players and agents
I saw-
flying in today.
I saw
bro.
someone in the chat
Like,
suggest
they're on the flight right now.
suggest Bob Myers as our new president of basketball operations.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Are
You
you
know, I
ready?
got enough.
Are you ready for Bob Myers?
I guess I can't even say yes or no publicly right now, just in case Bob does take over, and then we look really bad.
we got two Bobs. And one Bob is enough, man. Historically, two Bobs in a front office does not work, man. Is all I'm
Goodness,
saying.
man.
Yeah.
Nah, two Bobs like it's old country for no country for old men.
Oh man. Also,
Got two anti-sugar looking guys.
Also, imagine if our Bobby Webster event was like this weekend.
Oh.
Imagine if it was tomorrow. What are the questions that you would be throwing at Bobby, man? Like, what's the
Oh,
first
yeah.
question? Yeah.
Why did you kill Masai? No, I don't think that's how it happened. Okay, just joking. All right, I don't think that's what happened.
So let's say, so is Masai,
Man,
I guess, there's not going to be like some kind of farewell presser? I'm guessing Masai's just going to put
no,
out a
man.
press release. Yeah.
I
Someone at Players Tribune or President of Basketball Operations Tribune
yeah.
is hard at work at a speech right now.
You know what? You know what? Something's really interesting too, and I'm thinking about it because I was at the draft. I was in OVO the last 2 nights, and okay, this is all pure speculation. Okay, but
Sure.
typically speaking, the first parking spot in OVO, the one that's closest to, you know what I mean, right? The parking lot's right there, and then the door. The first parking spot is always there for Masai's black Suburban.
Okay.
Right, and then his driver is either in the car or he's just like floating around. But basically, that's the spot, primetime spot. He's the president. Last 2 days I've been there, that car was not there.
Ooh, car
I don't know if
wash.
Masai wasn't not there,
Yeah.
but there was a different car there. It was like a regular car, not a black Suburban.
This
Okay,
is the most intense car watch since Cameron joined Rockefeller Records and took up Jay-Z's parking spot without asking him, which turned into a lifelong beef. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Good eye though. Yo, you should park your scooter there.
No, I do. There's a bike rack actually closer to the technically my bike is parked closer to the team, but there's a bike rack
I
there.
wish you
No, 'cause
reported I wish
I
you
always look
reported
at
this 2 days ago. This is why you should tweet everything. It's like suspicious. Masai Suburban has not been spotted for 2 days.
The car's not there. I maybe it wasn't parked in the back. I don't know. It's a big parking lot, but again, like
Yeah.
99% of the time, it's parked right there. Okay,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about because you've been at OVO
Yes,
as well.
yes,
Not
yes,
recently,
yes.
but
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been.
but
a
you
while,
know
yeah.
what I'm talking about. That
Yes,
first parking
yes.
spot is that black
Yes.
Suburban with the driver in it. Okay, very clear.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I did see friend of the program, Jeff Landicio,
Yes.
who used to run Open Gym, but then was hired by Giants of Africa to run operations there. I'm actually totally not sure what his entire title is, but he does a lot of content basically for Masai and his organization personally. I did see him at OVO for the first time in a bit.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. I was like, wow, the draft brought everybody out. I wonder if this is sort of like, you
farewell
capture the
type
last
filming.
moments.
Yeah.
Yes. Because that
Yeah.
was strange because I haven't seen him in a few months, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess Masai's era started.
Of course, he didn't tell me any of this. Okay, so
Yeah. No,
very
this
much
is all.
clear.
This is all speculation.
Yeah.
This is all speculation. But I guess Masai's era started with a Andrea Bargnani trade and ended with them drafting whoever they took in the second round.
Elijah Martin.
What an anticlimactic end.
Well, I mean, that calls into question like how many of the moves towards like in the last month or so, in the last weeks or so, were even Masai directed.
Yeah. I mean, big zag here. Do you think Masai's legacy would be stronger if he just left right after the championship, or does it matter?
Yo, I think I would have committed seppuku live on Raptors Over Everything if you have Masai and Kawhi walking at the same time. Are you kidding me? I don't think I would have been able to at the height of a championship. I know I would have just that's it, man.
But you know, it's like it's like MJ after pushing off, Brian Russell and then walking away. We ignore the Wizards years. Or it's like, Jay-Z, walking away with Encore Black Album. We ignore all the albums which you listen to post Black Album.
Oh, come on, man!
But
Watch
this
the throne.
this would have been Messiah. And you know what? The thing for me that I'm like processing this now, and this is for Masai's own feelings. I'm not trying to project it onto him, but he talks so much about wanting to win a second championship here.
Yes.
He talks so much.
Oh my God.
He talks so much about wanting that feeling again, and we
Wow.
all know what was taken away from him in Game 6 of that finals, and we all know how tough it is to just even get back there.
Yep.
And there's no doubt in my mind, like he was chasing that feeling, building a team like that again to be able to get back. And I just hope whatever he does next, whether it's in basketball or somewhere else, he's able to find whatever the equivalent it is of getting back to that mountaintop and getting that feeling. But I think for me as like a Raptors fan, like I think that will be the one thing that'll like kind of stay with me, just in terms of all the stuff that he talked about that second championship.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a strong desire, and I think that in terms of the legacy of Masai, like that's sort of what he gave the team and the organization was from day one. He gave that team a swagger. You know what I mean? Like I think that The Raptors were arguably, I mean, I guess the Kings were involved too, and the Hornets existed. Maybe at the time there were the Bobcats too. But like when Masai took over in 2013, like Raptors were bottom three at best in terms of swagger and as an organization.
Oh
It
man,
was just
you think people don't
we
care
were
about
an
the Raptors?
outcast,
You
man.
think people don't care about the Raptors now? People did not care about the Raptors back
Dude,
then.
The Raptors were universally a joke, and
The
and
Raptors
honestly,
were so bad that you wouldn't even talk about them. Now at least we got Bill Simmons and Kendrick Perkins beefing about them,
yeah, that's right. Like,
which I'm pissed. I'm missing the Super Bowl this weekend.
oh,
I will be Wong. I will be sending Perk a text, and we'll try to get him on.
this guy got everyone's random numbers, man. This guy
I have
got-
I have the most useless numbers. You want me to hit up Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson for a 3-person weave? I got you.
Oh, okay. I'm okay on that, to be honest. I don't know if we want to reunite the ESPN broadcast on
Crickets.
Hello, but yeah, like it would be, man. Yeah, it just would be like a huge departure from, the confidence and the management that we had under Masai. At the same time, though, if we're gonna sort of take away the emotions of it just for a second, the last couple of years, management wise, have been a struggle. I think that obviously the team is not going back to the playoffs for a while. Even the year that they went back to the playoffs in 2022, that year the Raptors ran a 7-man rotation and played they played the regular players 40 minutes a game. I think it was like Fred and Pascal and OG were top 3 in minutes played, like top 5 I think in minutes played in the league that year. But they ran everyone kind of into the ground. They go to the playoffs. I mean, Scotty gets hurt in game 1, but I don't really think they beat that Sixers team anyway. And that Sixers team, by the way, went on to lose to Miami in the next round, so it wasn't even that good. So you have a 6-game series where they lose. I don't blame him for Tampa. Tampa is like, nothing could have really delayed that. I mean, that would have been that's a governmental decision, really, for at a time during COVID where it was like at the height of COVID. Are we going to open the borders or not to allow NBA teams to come in and out of the country? It just seemed like a very long shot because of the fact that, it was difficult for anyone to travel at that time. So they moved to Tampa. All that sort of fallout that happened in Tampa, I can't necessarily blame him for. I can't really blame him for even Kawhi leaving because I think that was always the likelihood. And actually, we did just talk to Bobby about this on the live show, and sort of we broke down what it looked like in terms of the not just negotiations of trade for Kawhi, which obviously Bobby was very strongly involved in, especially with his personal relationship to Brian Wright, dating back for probably 20 years now, maybe 15 years now, because they were interns together in Orlando back in the day. Why am I getting the Michael Grange scooter report angle from you, man?
Yo, my bad. My camera died out again.
Oh, okay, all right. At least the backup was right there. But I mean, I think and then of course, like it detailed sort of like what happened with Kawhi walking and sort of like their pitch to Kawhi at that time, and you heard one of the things I thought was really interesting for Bobby was he said that at the time when Kawhi left, one of the big interests for him was sort of the off the court business interests, which to me, I'm like, oh, that means Uncle Dennis was really interested because I'm not seeing Kawhi out there managing car washes and managing restaurants. Okay, so. Nevertheless, like I don't blame him for all of that, but since then you do need some time to sort of pivot and sort of just adjust to what the organization and the roster is, and whether that's the Pascal trade, which quite frankly, I never heard anything in that sort of situation where obviously things got bad, but it was never about Bobby. It was always sort of directed as this, is there something going on? I think people were always sort of upset. In the Pascal side about sort of how Masai and sort of handled that whole negotiation. One of the things that was always really strange to me was during a period where that final year, from basically Summer League onward, it was like pretty clear that Pascal was potentially being traded, even though Pascal wanted the extension. And I just remember hearing about what the number they wanted was, then going to management and asking, would you be willing to sort of have this number, and then sort of like almost going back and forth between the two parties in terms of just like what's actually happening here. I was doing it from just trying to report and essentially figure out what's actually happening, but in the middle of that, like there were at least like 3 or 4 back and forths that I was doing, and I'm like, wait, am I getting a check off of this? Because why am I facilitating a negotiation that should be just done between you guys directly? I think there was a communication breakdown. I think that, Fred walking, as much as that situation got really bad before that, and quite frankly, that 2023 season, the 2022-2023 season, that kind of claimed bodies for everybody in the organization, whether that was eventually leading to Pascal walking, eventually leading to OG walking, directly leading to Fred walking, directly leading to to Nick Nurse getting fired. If you remember the reporting around that year, it wasn't necessarily great either in terms of just like, I think one of the speculations was like, is Masai around enough? How did he not take control of the situation? Maybe, okay, fine. Nick wasn't managing the room well enough and definitely wasn't managing the room well enough. That there's a manager above Nick. You know what I mean? That, as much as anything else, the head coach of today's league is an interim manager, is a middle management. It goes up to the very top, man. And the top of the organization, I just don't think did a good job of managing how that season went. And ultimately, we are still seeing, I think, directly some of the ramifications that has sort of fallen downstream from that. You could say that the Raptors did pivot and they did make the Siakam trade. I don't care what necessarily happened since then to use the assets to get Brandon Ingram, but the time of the trade itself and when that trade would happen, that was an underwhelming return. That was an underwhelming return, and quite frankly, it soured a relationship with one of the Raptors organization's great players. And when that trade happened, the OG trade, you would have thought with Masai and remember that picture that Masai and OG took at Summer League or Media Day.
Yeah, the father and son
It was
photo.
the father and son combo, right? I was always the speculation was, okay, fine, maybe you're not going to favor Pascal, but maybe you'll favor OG. If this is like if this was like a succession scenario, maybe Pascal can be Kendall and like OG can be Roman. It turns out neither of the sons win. Actually, succession spoiler, but basically that's what happens, right? But like you know what I mean? Like that personal relationship wasn't around enough to keep OG around either. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So ultimately, I don't know. Like I'm not. Look, I have so much love for Masai, and we're going to talk about his legacy very shortly because I really want to make the space for it. He is a legend in my eyes. But I think if you look back at it and think from at least from the organizational standpoint of why would you let go of Masai, you have to reverse engineer it, and you have to sort of look at some of this in hindsight and say, how did they arrive at this decision? And quite frankly, you know, these aren't necessarily like how many slam dunk trades have there been? How many slam dunk signings have there been? Back in the day when Masai first took over, guy was on a heater, man. First move, let's trade Andrea Bargnani, and you got a first round pick back, right? Remember back in the day, Tim and Sid, shout out to Tim and Sid both, singing that I Believe in Masai, you know what I mean? R. Kelly special.
Oh no! We gotta put that one back in the closet.
Yeah,
Man.
man, trap
Holy.
that thing in the closet.
Holy,
but
who's
you
doing the remix, man? Did he? Holy.
Because that was his first move as Raptors like GM at that time. He took over. That was the first move, and that was a great move, right? When you look
Yeah,
back at trading
classic
Gravis Vasquez
moves.
or trading Rudy Gay midseason, that was a great move. That turned the whole year around for that team. When you go to that following summer, right, you're able to trade Gravis Vasquez for the pick that became Norman Powell and the pick that became OG Anunoby. Those are great moves. And then did they miss on any draft picks? The first draft they took over, Bruno, Xavier Daniels, Xavier Thames, some other guy, like whatever, like that was a brick, but it didn't really matter. But after that point onward, when you take OG, when you take Norm, when you take Pascal, when you find, Jakob Poeltl, when you find Fred VanVleet, like they were on a heater. And of course, like, everything else locked into place with, Colin DeMar taking over. But like, that was all great. And then you get to the Kawhi trade, you get to the Mark trade, you get to the championship. Everything was amazing. I just feel like you were always hoping for another one of those types of moves. And, we've been covering the team very consistently during this whole time. Nothing really has come close to that level. I mean, the closest thing maybe is getting Brandon Ingram for just one first round pick. The closest thing is actually the best thing that they've done since then is draft Scotty with the 4th overall pick and have him, win Rookie of the Year and become an All-Star. Those are all things because if you didn't have that, the Raptors would be as, irrelevant in the NBA as they, realistically can be. And so I think that part is just like when you think back to the other part, it's just like, I know it's been difficult. I know that, this team is sort of pivoting into rebuild, but it almost felt like they were forced to rebuild in a way, man. And ultimately, that's the situation that we're in again, man. So I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. I'm really curious to see what the future of the team is. Based on the reporting and the rumors in the weeks leading up to this, you saw the Raptors make a full-hearted approach towards Giannis. Giannis ultimately decides to stay. I mean, that probably would have been Masai's last lifeline.
Yeah, that probably broke Masai, man. I think we don't need to even sugarcoat it too. I think one of the one of the things that, like, they haven't had a good track record post championship. And as much as you want to talk about Masai's legacy and the stability that he brought, if you're only evaluating this team post championship, like, there's been a lot of misses. And you can say that the Scotty Barnes pick was good, and it was, and the Brandon Ingram trade they got at a very low price. But
Sure.
all of that is still to be determined, right? Like, Masai's position.
Well, has that
this
led to
team-
any winning yet? That's the
Well,
thing.
but that's what I'm
has that led
saying.
to any winning?
That's what I'm saying. Scotty is the centerpiece of a team that is still, like, has not had any success. They went into a rebuild. Now they're coming out of a rebuild. And, most Raptors fans have become unimpressed by the roster construction post championship. So, in a way, maybe there is something exciting about seeing a new direction or a new voice in the front office, or what that might be. Or maybe it's disappointing if this is the same front office with Bobby and the rest of the people, and they're still moving in the same direction. So, sometimes change is good, man. Sometimes you gotta, bounce from Apple to IBM and all of that stuff. So
Yo, Jerome, what's up, man? Did you also wake up to this news?
Yeah, happy
called
birthday,
you.
Michelle. I was at Mrs. Robinson last night. to
called you
close.
both at 9, man.
Yeah, getting a call from Alex in the morning is one of the
Yo,
most
getting a
distressing
double call
things.
from Alex at 9
Yeah.
a.m. was
The
was
first
crazy.
time I wake up before 10 and I lose my president, man. This is
There you go.
being a morning person is so overrated, man.
Okay, a couple things to share with you guys just while you guys were commenting on. We do have one second, please. Media release from the Raptors.
I ain't reading all that.
I'll read it out.
Yeah,
for
I'm
you
doing a
guys
Ken
right now.
Jong meme right now, man.
No, we good, man.
You don't have to read it. Okay.
I did read part of this media release earlier, just live on the show. before
Yeah,
you-
but this
you
one
popped
was
on.
now released publicly.
It's
so
the
we do
it's the
have
same one. It's the same one.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have from Michael Grange reporting, MLSE President Keith Pelley will address media
Yes.
regarding
Yes.
Masai at 1 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah, apart from that,
I guess I will be running to Scotiabank Arena for 1 p.m.
Hell
there
yeah.
you go. Yeah, they do have the thank you Masai tweet.
Oh,
that
man,
went out,
these just
which
like
is
Happy
feels
birthday, Kevin Willis.
these feel devastating, bro.
yeah, it's not a good feeling.
Are you kidding
Why is
me?
he hugging that basketball?
Yo,
so
put that picture back up, man. Is this AI?
No. It's definitely a.
Is this a real photo? I hope it's
It
a real
would be a
photo.
I
real
mean,
photo.
Raptors'
No, it wouldn't be
official
AI.
account is tough, but it's not at AI yet. Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be AI.
Okay. All right.
No, this is. I mean, I'm scrolling through tweets to find any kind of update on news, but mostly what I'm coming across is like any amount of our friends in the media or fans of the Raptors just shocked and devastated by this news. It's a weird one. I mean, I'm getting texts from like former colleagues that I don't get like taught to regularly. Like it's just like a really weird one to come through.
Yeah, I just got a message from a reporter in Berlin being like, "Yo, what's the news?" I'm like, "I'm not telling you anything."
But
He's
this
like,
is
"Was there a falling out?" is that the right answer?
Is that your German accent? Oh my gosh.
I was just eating sauerkraut and a verse, and I heard the news.
Yo, this is the worst. This is the worst
First
Friday
behavior.
ever.
This is what I mean,
Yo,
though. Like,
yo,
this
I
is
felt
what I
it.
mean, bro.
I fell to my knees at Nut Bar, bro. I could never look at Nut Bar the same again.
Yo, that's crazy. Oh man. Okay, this is all that we know. To recap,
Sure.
in the lead up, and I've already said this a couple of times, but just to sort of recap, in the lead up to the draft, some of the people, players and agents who dealt with the Raptors noticed that there wasn't as much Masai involvement as usual in having dealt with the Raptors in the past. That was a sign. Another sign is that the organization is going to, obviously this is a confirmed, they're going to extend Bobby, they're going to extend the rest of the organization, but they're still going to hire a president. They're saying that there's going to be a search, but at least a couple things that I heard was that I think they already have a target in mind. I don't know who this target is right now.
Bob Myers, baby.
I hope it's not Bob Myers, man. I mean, you know what? If it is Bob, I look forward to doing media with you in the future. The other things that are more speculative that I have realized recently was that the last 2 days of going to MLS or to go to OVO, Masai's car wasn't parked in the same place that it always is with the
Yep,
driver.
missing vehicle. Yeah.
I'm just telling you, man, the black Suburban not being there, unless it's for drafting purposes, is strange. Okay,
Yeah.
because you know he's in the building. Like, obviously he's there.
Sure.
This might be the Vince Carter's mom couldn't get the parking spot.
That was great. Did Tim Chung take?
Yeah.
Do you think Tim Chung has an extra set of keys to that car? Or?
Oh man, yeah. You know, and then you also have, yeah. I mean that's largely like sort of what
and
what
also
we've done
like
so far,
once
man.
the
and
ownership,
Bobby
once
is going to be here long term. So
once the ownership stuff happened, like I think we all, you heard whispers that Masai's time might be up here and stuff on his
Yeah.
own terms. So
Yeah, and then like felt even heightened once we saw like Brendan Shanahan go. Although way different circumstances, I would say there. Yeah, I don't know. I think the other thing too, and it kind of reflects on like what you just went through and how we were, how I've like been watching you guys talk about it is so shocking that we are kind of finding ourselves like grasping at any kind of finding reason. I think like whenever
Yes,
something like happens to anyone that is so devastating and shocking, they're trying to make sense of it in ways that they're like almost reaching for anything to
Yeah.
give any kind of logic to it. And I think the other thing that we have to sort of accept, unfortunately, during this time is like we need time to find out what really is what happened. Like I think they're going to shed some light, as we mentioned, at 1 p.m. I don't know how much we're going to get from that, but we'll at least like understand probably enough to know that whether it was mutual, whether it was letting go, and then at least we have the information that we already had before to know that it seems like they've not seems like they've extended like a management, Robbie Webster, all those things there, but beyond that, yeah, it's a lot of what happened, and we're just gonna need to like find out as it comes out with more news.
damn, man, that Bobby Webster event could have waited 2 weeks. This would have been crazy. Yo, imagine we were doing that this Saturday.
no, I think I
We're
mean,
like, Bob, what's going on, man? I got Loewe. You got the top job apparently.
Yeah.
rocking our GM's rocking Jack Victor. I think Conspiracy Al, what happened was, we know Bill Simmons, came out and said that the Raptors are not going to be a top 6 team next season, and I think Masai, saw the tea leaves. An expert like Bill saying that, he was like, it's time to go to a better team.
Oh my god.
So I think sports guy is landing on the Masai blame pie.
Oh, tough look for Kendrick Perkins, unfortunately. But Bill almost always is right in the long term.
Pert being like, "You're about to catch me on the road tripping pod."
Oh man, I'll be hearing something else on the. That's gonna be crazy. Okay, let's get to the point where I think that we got to give Masai his respect, because as much as it's about the future of the Raptors, I'm personally really invested in Masai himself as a person.
Sure.
As I've said, man, I have crazy respect for Masai. I think we've been asked a couple of times, like, what's our dream interview? And for me, it was Masai. But he was on that very short list, man. I mean, I would have wanted to interview Yao Ming, would have wanted to interview Steve Nash. Honestly, some of these are pretty within reach.
Such a funny list.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm just saying.
I'm sorry. Any list that starts with Yao Ming is so funny.
What do you mean? I could interview him Chinese, man. I guess we'll go Hanson Yang on this now.
I'm trying to find my Masai Ujiri Vice Sports Q&A. I think Vice Sports is dead.
Oh, no. I actually saw that recently. Let me find that for you, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is somebody I have tremendous respect for, not just for what he's done for the Raptors organization, which I genuinely feel like everybody should be universally grateful for what he brought to this team. But also I respect him tremendously as a person, especially in terms of what he's done. I mean, I've been to, even, before I was a reporter of the Raptors, I was just like a fan of the team, obviously. I mean, I'm still just a fan of the team. I mean, like, I'm such a fan. I went to like TIFF's screening of Giants of Africa, the movie and the documentary. And like, I like stood up, was standing in applause. Like when you get to see directly or close up what he does for people and just for basketball in general, there's no way but that you don't have that level of respect. And you can put together whatever you want to say about how the team was managed the last couple of years. And some of the things, he's not infallible. I'm not sort of deifying him, but there is a real humanity about him that I thought was just super special, man. I just don't really see a lot of people in the world that have sort of the approach and the focus that Masai has. And so I will miss him tremendously on many accounts as a Raptors president, but also as a person. And I will be following sort of what he does and just like really, I guess, admiring from afar and hoping to still get an interview one day.
Yeah, I mean, at his very best, Masai was a real motivator. You know, like we
Yes.
joke about the press conferences as well. Like I remember just him, you know, telling the city to believe in themselves and really pushing back against just all the inferiority that the team would always feel. Like he always spoke about Toronto in a way that didn't make us feel like we were smaller than anybody. And
Yeah.
he spoke his dreams into reality, you know? Like
Yeah.
every president of basketball operations comes in and talks about championships, and a lot of times that doesn't work out. And it could have not worked out here, but you know, he was able to, like you outlined before, all the moves that he made, be able to build this championship team. And you know, I think it's really funny because Masai is the only guy that I feel like is the face of the franchise as the president of basketball operations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Well, we've lost every other face.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
But it's
Well,
like,
but just generally, I think what Alex is saying, it's like how many franchises do you identify that have their president be as like one of the main faces?
when
That's
you
true.
look back at this whole era, they will call it the Masai Ujiri era. Like
And-
it's not the Steph Curry era. It's not the Tim
Okay.
Duncan era. Like it's a president, which is like we always joke about too. Like we're the only franchise that does like president of basketball operations free agency.
Yep.
Like we're always
Yep.
just looking out for seeing when Masai is gonna come back. So yeah, it's truly the end of an era. I mean, I know we always mention like Chris Boucher as like the last piece here of the Raptors championship, and I guess obviously like Bobby Webster and a lot of these guys have been here too. But
Sure.
I think with Masai leaving, like this is like an official cap to an end of an era right here. So
Yeah.
and it's been coming, man, for a few years here. So
I would say that I don't think it should be glossed over. When you said that he spoke his success into existence, Masai's first run with the organization never gets talked about, but he was actually part of Brian Colangelo's staff. I think he was one of their scouts, focused primarily on Africa. But he obviously worked his way up. You know, he got his background as a scout. You know, I remember talking to David Thorpe about this many years ago. But you know, Masai was, you know, sleeping on friends' couches, making $3,000 a year. This is like probably 20 years ago. He was sleeping on friends' couches, like, you know, making $3,000 a year, and going to scout players and all across Europe and developing his scouting network and, you know, all of that. But really just like, again, he basically has the Jeremy Lin sleeping on Landry Fields' couch story, right? He goes to Summer League one year because he has one prospect that he was handling and he was close to. I forget what the player's name was, but I remember he was Nigerian. And it just so happened that he was in Orlando. I think they were working that player out. I think Doc Rivers was, you know, head coach of Orlando at that time. That's how long
Doc
ago this
Rivers
was.
involved in every story.
He's like, you know, Masai,
You know,
I kind of like that guy you got there, but I like your GMing skills better.
Doliak. You know Michael Doliak.
He's like, I need a replacement for anyway. So at that time, David, who's largely based out of Florida, you know, took notice of Masai, and I think Masai at that time was just like, dude, I don't even have a phone. Can I borrow your phone? And
And then he turned the BlackBerry. He made the BlackBerry more famous than BlackBerry could, man.
no, it's legit. Like he was a walking ad for BlackBerry. Like it's not even just enough that I guess Obama at that time was using BlackBerry, but this is actually immortalized in an interview, which I guess Vice Sports no longer exists. But I have a screen cap of this from 2015.
Really short answers here from Masai Ujiri.
This is Alex Wong. Alex, you can ask the question. I could be Masai in this situation.
Okay, Masai, man. To my knowledge, are you the only GM in the league that uses a BlackBerry?
I always like to claim that Obama uses a BlackBerry, so I don't care what you got to say. Ha ha ha. Sorry, that's not how Masai laughed.
I just see everyone using Androids and iPhones these days, but no complaints about the BlackBerry?
Safest in the business.
This is probably why there are never leaks about trade rumors or draft picks.
Yeah, exactly.
Masai, thank you for the interview.
This is a crazy interview by Alex Wong back in 2015, man.
I was glazing him back then. I was like, yo, no leaks, baby.
Yo, no.
I do
Hey,
have
man.
Masai on WhatsApp, man. Let me WhatsApp his ass.
What? Yo, what's up him right now, man? What
No,
are
man,
you
what are we
doing?
gonna do?
Just tell him, yo, like, all the
Yo.
best. Appreciate you. What happened, man?
Hell no, man.
Tell him to come on Hello and Welcome and just tell all, man. Spill
No,
all
he
the beans
ain't-
on
he
Hello
ain't
and
coming
Welcome.
on- He
man.
ain't coming on No Hello. What was the last thing that he did? He did like Kelly Clarkson. So the next thing he's gonna do is gonna like
He
he's
did
not
do the
gonna-
Kelly Clarkson show. Yeah.
No, we were laughing because we were like, Masai's doing Kelly Clarkson and Bobby's doing Hello. Only one of those interviews hit though.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. No, but
mean,
going back
that's-
to Masai's legacy,
And
like
break away.
I don't think it should be overstated how much he spoke all of his success into existence. And I think that when he took over the Raptors, that was obviously under the previous MLSE president change. The ownership didn't change hands at that time, but obviously they brought in Tim Lawicki to be who Keith Pelly is right now, the CEO of MLSE. And then you saw sweeping changes across the board. The thing is, you don't bring in a big boss unless you want to change the underbosses. And like that's what happened last time. Masai was part of that change last time. Brian Colangelo was out. I think who was running the Leafs back then, man? Was it still John Ferguson Jr.? Rest in peace. But like, was it still JFJ?
Lou Lamoriello
Lamoriello,
was
yeah,
here
so
before
they-
Brandon Shanahan.
They got rid of Lou. They changed, I guess, everything with TFC, and like you saw this new change under MLSE for that stretch. And quite frankly, when you look back on it, I know the Leafs haven't gone past the second round, but at least they got the Leafs to the playoffs. TFC won a championship, the Raptors won a championship, and I think the most importantly, man, when Masai came in and he had this confidence to speak about the team. Even small moments like him saying "fuck Brooklyn" out loud in that 2014 playoff run. The year after, it didn't really hit the same, but when he said, "I don't give a shit about it," in response to Paul Pierce, when he brought the All-Star team to Toronto, the All-Star game to Toronto, when he helped bring the G League organization here to Toronto to sort of level up the Raptors as an
Practice
organization.
facility, which we've
New
heard
practice
lots of people
facility.
talk about right around the league now.
New slogan, new everything, man. I mean, the players didn't necessarily change, but they felt like new players. But the DeMar under Masai, the Kyle under Masai was not the DeMar and Kyle under Brian Colangelo in previous management. So when you saw all that, and then even making the playoffs those many years, and those were amazing runs. But of course, having the confidence to say the Raptors have never been as good as being the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. The Raptors have never been as good as a 50-win team, a 55-win team, a 56-win team, a 59-win team, 58-win team. We've never been this good, but we're still going to fire our coach of the year in Dwayne Casey. We're going to act like a real organization. We're going to let go of DeMar DeRozan. You know what? Guess what, DeMar? Your last act as a Raptor was hard fouling Jordan Clarkson on a fast break and not even being able to close out the last game of your Raptor career. Like, you are getting let go. We are going to make this trade for Kawhi. And then when all the doubt was against Masai, remember that press conference when he came, it was the summertime, it was 2018, the Raptors had traded DeMar. Masai comes out and he's just sweating like crazy. Remember you were at the press conference.
He
literally
was sweating like Patrick Ewing, man. Yeah.
he was,
No, because they made it sound like he just like traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis or
yeah.
something.
Well, all the reporters in the room are like, "How could you do this, Masai?
Yeah.
How could you stab everybody?" You know what I mean? Like,
They're
what
Miss-
what'd you
Mr.
do
Bob Williams from CP24 here. Why did you trade the person that everyone loves in the city and stuff?
Right.
He's
That
getting
was the
grilled.
heat. That was the heat that he was under. And
Yeah.
then for him to come out the next time he talked to the media in him sitting on the front with Kawhi sitting beside him and Danny Green sitting beside him as well, and him telling the whole goddamn city, believe in yourselves, believe in
Yeah.
this city,
He
and then they
empowered-
go
he
on to win
empowered
the
us.
championship, bro.
Yeah, he empowered us.
This
I mean,
guy
that
is a
was-
legend, man.
That was a
He
crazy
is a
season.
legend.
I mean, this man was like, Kyle and him were beefing because of the DeMar trade.
Yeah, and then he told Kyle, he was like, Kyle, do you want to be part of a championship team, or do you want to go to fucking Memphis for the second time in your career?
Because I will bring in Mike Conley and we'll still win the chip.
I don't think we would have won the chip with Mike Conley, to be
Yeah,
clear.
probably not.
But even to have the cojones to be like, yo, I just you just saw what I did to DeMar, right?
Cojones factor.
I'll do this to you, Kyle.
Yeah,
That's leadership,
yeah,
man.
No, it's
Did I freeze when I said
incredible.
that? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, you did freeze, Mr. Freeze. But I think I remember too, even him bringing the Larry O.B. to the podium after they won, right? And just him just being able to reflect on his journey and being able to just take a little victory lap there, right? And I think those were those are just incredible memories, man. And yeah, I think once we take a step back from this and just, reflect and think about just the entire era, like that's the best, I think for our lifetime so far, like that's the best Toronto sports era. Like
By
you,
far.
I don't think
By
there's
far.
anything that's
Easily.
close. I don't think there's anything that's close. And I think one of the things you always said, Will, like during that era as well, was like we should appreciate this. We should appreciate a team that's winning 50 plus games every year.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's frustrating that we're losing in the first round or getting swept and stuff like that. But it's like how often do you see this sustained level of success, not just in the NBA, but in Toronto as well? And it's scary because 2019 is so long ago now, right? Like 6 years out now. And you can look at the track record of other teams, like, the Detroit Pistons winning a championship in the mid 2000s. And look at how far they had to go before they could even just get back to the playoffs and have a competent team. And
Yeah.
like we're approaching, 6, 7 years now, right?
Yeah.
And things can turn real quick here in the NBA, and you can really get into that position like the Raptors have in the last few seasons, where you just kind of go back to being irrelevant. So I think it is kind of scary times looking ahead, but it's good to look back and just reflect on this whole
Yeah.
era.
I think
do
things
think that,
can
yeah, go ahead.
turn
Sorry.
things can turn quickly in sports. Period. Like I think what we find is just teams exist in windows, runs exist in windows. I mean, the very thing that like when we experience and we talk a lot about the more recent times of maybe finding disappointment in management or how they're handling team, like that doesn't come without the expectations that they set by achieving such greatness. Like simply, you can't like we wouldn't feel that way if we never won a championship. We maybe feel like disappointed a bit differently, but we've actually like experienced such a level due to the work by Masai and his team. And so I just think about you think of any NBA exec that has ever existed, like name how many that have a like a line like "In Masai we trust." Like there was legitimately a period where no matter what he did, even if we questioned it, like we would just be like, whatever, in Masai we trust because he did so many like things. And I think it extends to beyond the basketball court, and something that like really stands out for me, like when I used to work at MLSE was, in 2020 during the pandemic, and George Floyd happens, and there's a lot of like wondering what to do about it. How do we report about it? How do we speak openly? And I can't quote exactly, and I'm sure like the press conferences exist still, but it was just like watching Masai speak so openly and candidly about it in a way that felt like very separate from the kind of corporate or organizational public messaging you would receive. There was something about that, and then you see like the aftermath afterward, and I'm not saying that's entirely Masai that does it, but I feel like it's that kind of leadership that leads well to the buses with the Black Lives Matter on it, just the open speaking by the team. There's something that very like specific about the messaging that came out of the Raptors organization that time that made me, and I'm sure a lot of other fans, really proud to be like fans of the franchise, fans of Masai, things like that. And I think like when we talk about in Masai we trust, it's not just like on a basketball front, but just as a general like compass for like doing what's right.
This is the thing. This is when you really see leadership is in times of turmoil. And I think that I always trust the Messiah to do the right thing in those moments. I think you can't really measure how important leadership is. Masai had a confidence and a bravery to do what he thought was right at all times. And that to me was always something that's really special. You just don't usually see that from sporting organizations. Sporting organizations, for the most part, kind of act like MJ trying to sell sneakers back in the day. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's typically how it goes. And I think that to see someone actually actively break that mold here in Toronto over and over and over again was really, really inspiring. And of course, like I know Masai, isn't some sort of like, he's not even a politician. He's not even a saint, or he's not any of these things. But I did see somebody who tried to act as much as possible in what he believed was right. And that to me is a leadership example, not just for sports, but in general. I do think that maybe in hindsight too, when you look at this recent pattern of the team, especially with the takeover, how much of this is just cost cutting? Like we might be talking about this whole thing we might be talking about his legacy. It might just be the Masai cost too much, and it could just be business, you know. And when you think about it, you know, and I know that this is at the top level, and he was making $15 million a year as president. I doubt the next president will make $15 million a year, so I think there's going to be savings there. But even if we look at the general pattern behind the scenes, how many media jobs were lost, for example, since the takeover?
Yeah,
And none of it being replaced, you know. If I'm just having to look from the outside, if it's just me looking at the car not being parked in the right spot in that sort of situation, is there just cost cutting across the board since it's a takeover? Because I've seen a lot of corporate takeovers now. You know, I've been part of them before.
This is
that
kind
is
of
common. Man. Yeah.
You look at it from that perspective, like you remove the fact that it's Masai. Like whenever there is that ownership change and the huge change up top, there's always going to be, you know, elimination of roles. There's always going to be a restructuring, and I think, you know, we talked about earlier just the last negotiations with Masai. Like there was some hesitancy from certain members on the board. It was reported about giving Masai this like sizable extension, and if you look at it from a very just pure business perspective, it's like, you know, someone like Ed Rogers or someone on the board could sit there and say like what results have been delivered in the last 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And
also,
you can, yeah, go ahead, Jerome.
Yeah, just obviously Masai is one of the big names, like the notable names, but we've seen it with a lot of our friends in the industry, a lot of our friends at MLSE. Like MLSE has been going through continuous rounds of layoffs. Like we've seen a lot of people lose,
hundreds of people. I'm not kidding.
Lose their jobs,
hundreds.
lose their livelihoods. People that we think would be stalwarts, people that we would never think. Like, obviously, Masai is such shocking news, and we're like, oh, like we never would think Masai would go. At least not unless it was on his own terms. Like that's how we felt about a lot of our good friends in the industry right now that have like lost their jobs due to it. So like this is, you know, like just to the point of like like an acquisition and like these kind of things happening. Like it's happening to, like obviously this is about Masai right now, but it's happening to a lot of people.
Right. So again, like I don't know, man. Also, why would you buy a team if you're just going to cut all the costs? Like, don't you want to enjoy being rich? Isn't the whole point of being a rich guy to be like, yo, I got all this money, I'm throwing it around?
That's how you make money, though, my brother. Yeah.
Okay, well, if we're just turning the Raptors into a money-making organization, then I guess from that perspective, you can also look at the last couple of years of them not being successful, them starting to lose season ticket holders for the first time in a while. You know, some of the sales being down. Like,
I know so many. I think majority of season ticket holders that I know did not renew for next season. Like they were just kind of disillusioned by the product of the last few years, and
well, it doesn't help that it's gone up 15% again.
Prices are not going down. This is like reaching Kawhi watch levels, man. I got someone texting me being like, I think I was just on the same plane as Masai leaving Toronto.
He's already gone. There's not even a goodbye, man. Where was that plane headed, Alex? Where was that plane headed?
I don't believe any of this.
God damn, I'm telling you where Masai's car is.
During Kawhi watch, my sister's like, yo, Kawhi's kids enrolled at my nephew's school.
Generational wealth alert.
I was like, and then I was like, yo, you lied to me. It's crazy, man. All right, I gotta go, dog.
Yeah. Anyway, this is speaking of going to the airport, Alex, if you see Masai Billy Bishop, let us know. Okay?
I don't think he's thinking. Should I walk the underground, or do they still do the boat thing?
No, take the boat
do they still
tour,
do
man.
the ferry?
Take your sweet ass time and take that boat over
I
there.
will remember you. Yeah, we'll see, man. Imagine if the flight was to Atlanta. I'll tell you. GM announcement tomorrow. Giannis on Sunday.
This is your prediction?
Yeah, this is what's gonna happen. Yeah, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm genuinely really sad about this, but I was really, really happy and really proud to have Masai as our team president, not just for the trades that he made, which were legendary, but also for the way that he represented the organization. I'll almost look at the Raptors not as a team, as a business entity, but as a community. And the person who was in charge of that community, I thought he did a great job in terms of just being a true leader in that sense. And I will miss my president, man. There's no way I'll feel as strongly about the next person that takes Masai's job than I would be about Masai.
There's officially no good presidents left, man. Damn.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They should retire. If they retire Masai's, like put him up in the rafters. Like, what number do they give him? Yeah.
His
Like, what number do you give an
phone number.
exec? Yeah.
Well, I hope they left on good terms because that determines a lot of sort of if people's legacies get attributed in that way. I think Masai has to be honored somewhere in the building. I'm not even kidding, man.
They should build a statue.
That's how
outside.
crazy it is. It's like that we are trying to figure out what the Masai tribute, like who has a return GM, president, NBA executive tribute, like it, but
They
Masai
should,
absolutely deserves.
They should
Yeah.
put a statue where he said "fuck Brooklyn," like right outside Jurassic Park.
Ooh,
Yeah,
so
on the
it's like-
spot.
I like
So
On
that.
it's
the
like
if you can,
so
like,
it's
put-
like
Oh, I like that.
always so it's just like always there. Yeah. Every time they pan to the shot, now you just see Masai standing there.
One of the only statues that you really see walking around in that area is the Ed Rogers statue.
Oh yeah, that's,
Or the Ted Rogers
the
statue.
Ted Rogers.
Ted,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ted,
don't forget
sorry.
the T, dog.
Hey, the T. Hey, that was important, man. Ted was the funny thing about working at Rogers too the last 3 years was like every day you come up to 3 and where Sportsnet building is, and then as soon as you walk out the elevator,
The giant mural.
there's just giant murals of Ted everywhere. There's that big marble staircase that you walk up
Oh
to the second
my
floor,
God,
and there's
yeah.
a gigantic painting like Tiananmen
Well,
Square style. of Mao.
chill. No, I remember that because when we first started at Sportsnet,
Yep.
we had to do COVID testing when we were
Yes.
there.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
rapid tests.
So you walk in 15 minutes.
You
you're in the
walk in,
lobby.
15 minutes, you're waiting.
Yeah.
And I used to just have the clock on, just staring at my boy. Like I would
Just
just,
looking up
I
at him,
would I would just stare at my boy. Yeah. Also, it's funny because Bobby, if Masai's Tony Soprano, this is like Bobby's Silvio Dante. This is when Silvio takes over. He's about to get asthma, bro.
It's not going to be good for Bobby's health when he takes over. No, I mean I saw because we made the comparison earlier to I think the I guess the succession analogy with like Masai being but basically like I think they're calling the Bobby Tom Womsky.
Yeah, I saw it. Him and Dan Tolzman is just in the car with Shiv with a little hand. So, we in this together now, dog.
Yo, Bob, man. Oh man, it's a good time to be friends with Bob. But holy,
This is Dan Tolzman and Bobby Webster. So, we got this, dog.
they're fighting on the on the balcony right now, man.
Oh my god.
Just kidding, guys. We'll try to find out as much news about
is
this as possible.
Are you
man.
doing a second pod today or what?
Well, I'm gonna go to the press conference. We'll see
Yeah.
how it goes. I mean, this is not how I was expecting today to go. I was fully waking up this morning with the intention of giving you a report on Elijah Martin and Chucky Hepburn. So,
Instead, we got Chucky Heartburn.
oh no, Silvio Dante style. So we will cover this, as we
This
know.
deserves a second pod, is all I'm saying.
I agree.
I think it deserves.
I'm gonna
a
spend the weekend trying to figure out as much as possible in terms of what's gonna happen and what happened here. So,
sure.
this is really tough, but we'll miss you, Masai. That personally, we'll miss you. If I see Masai again, hopefully I would to see Masai again. Maybe he's at Summer League when we see him.
Masai, it's time for me to write your book, man. Let's do it.
Oh, tell all right now.
Masai, let's go.
Oh
Come on,
man, you did beg him to write a book, and this would be a great book. I would read the hell out of that book.
Masai, please, man. I know you're gonna handpick someone else that you know better, but
But, well,
I
come on,
s-
man.
I swear-
You're getting better answers than this. This is gonna be the shortest book of all time. It's gonna be shorter than We the North or We the Champs.
yo, chill, dog.
Here's
Chill, dog.
some wild speculation right now. Alex has been telling us that he has his book lined up, that what he's gonna write next, or he has a couple ideas down the
Oh,
pipeline.
yo, bro,
If
do not-
if Alex knew this whole time, and he's just been writing this book and writing this chapter, like he's just gonna step out and fly out to New York and NBA headquarters with Masai to continue writing this book with
You
him.
guys know me. Like I would not be able to keep a secret like that.
No, you
Oh,
wouldn't.
You guys-
you would have been saying wands like crazy.
You guys,
Wong.
you guys would see everything in the group chat. Yeah.
Nah.
We'd see everything in the group chat, and people would be like, "What is Alex cryptically talking about during the NBA draft?"
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like, Alex, why are you more intrigued by Chucky Hepburn,
I
man?
messaged Lee Ben. I'm like, yo, you still gonna be in New York today? He's like, I'm flying out at 6 a.m. I was hoping to cross over with him.
that'd be
Oh
nice.
man.
Well, I think get ready
Yeah.
and head out to there.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have more reporting throughout the day. very shocking news, but well, yeah, we're gonna.
You think
we're gonna
Masai
report
flies
as things come
Porter?
through.
Just kidding. Just the
I'm actually 11D, so look for me 2 p.m. flight.
This guy 11 on a Porter flight is nuts.
The funny
Must be
thing
in the
about
back
this,
of the plane.
the funny thing about this is the only one person who's mad about this is Ennis Esmer for revealing this information.
Oh man,
All right.
that's
Okay.
it.
Well,
Happy
Thank
trails,
you,
Masai.
everyone.
What happened?
Thank you, everyone,
everything,
for tuning
Masai,
in.
seriously. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, but thank you, Masai, first and foremost, man. We'll miss you a lot. I hope to see you in the future, and I hope to get all the spicy details of what happened, but also, we're rooting for you, man. Seriously, we have tremendous respect for Masai on behalf of all of Hello and Welcome. So thanks, everyone, for listening. This has been the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. We'll be reporting more on this, but for now, I'm running down to the press conference, and Alex is running to the Bada Boom, Bada Bing Studios. Okay, see you guys.